Who told you to be here, Bernie? This is... No, this is a Bernie plant. This is a Bernie plant. All right, okay, I understand your question. And I understand... What, darling? Say it a little louder. We can't hear you. Okay. Oh, illegal backbone of our country? I don't think so, darling. I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. They're not the backbone. You know what? I'll tell you what. We did. That's okay. We don't need help with these folks. Let me just tell you something. Let me just tell you something. You know what the backbone of our country? People that came here, and they came here legally. People that came to this country legally, and they worked their ass off, and they've made the country great. That's the backbone. That's the backbone. All right.
Is it on? Okay. I want to get paid the same as a man, and I think you understand that. So, if you become president, will a woman make the same as a man, and do I get to choose what I do with my body?
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job.
Soulja Boy, tell.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
Thank you. Now, I heard, and I saw just a little bit of it, but I heard that Mitt Romney made a fairly long speech. And I mean, honestly, I thought I'll just address it quickly because it's irrelevant. Look, Mitt is a failed candidate. He failed. He failed horribly. The third debate... He failed badly. That was a race, I have to say, folks, that should have been won. That was a race that absolutely should have been run. You can see how loyal he is. He was begging for my endorsement. I could have said, Mitt, drop to your knees. He would have dropped to his knees. He was begging. Sure. He was begging me. And did you see how great? He said, oh, I'm not big like him. He's the great businessman, all that stuff. Mitt was thinking about running again. He ran a horrible campaign. It was a campaign that should have never been lost. You're running against a failed president. Mitt was a disaster as a candidate. So what happened, and it was very strong, and I think if the press goes back, they'll see it. When I heard he was running again, and I wasn't sure I was going to be running, but I was very, very strong to Mitt and to everybody, and publicly, not to talk to him, because I didn't even want to talk to him. I was so disappointed in him, because he let us down. He let us down. You know, it's one thing you lose and you work and you work and you go. He let us down. He should have won. Something happened to him. He went away. He was gone. He was horrible in the third debate. It was a horrible... Something happened. I don't know what happened. Maybe someday they'll write a book. His campaign guy was terrible, terrible. He had a terrible campaign manager who's always on television, Stuart Stevens or something. He's always on television knocking everybody. The guy ran one of the worst campaigns in the history of modern politics. And Mitt ran, probably it was the worst run that most people have seen, because most people thought that the Republican candidate would win. So when Mitt started raising his head a few months ago, I was very strong. I said, Mitt Romney should not run. He's a choke artist. And then Jeb Bush actually convinced Mitt not to run. Can you imagine? Jeb sold him. Jeb, he's a good salesman. See, now that he's out, I'll say Jeb's a good salesman, right? He's a high-energy salesman. But Mitt was afraid of Jeb because he was afraid that Jeb would get the money and Jeb would get the whatever. And, you know, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of Jeb, I can tell you that. So what happened is Jeb Bush convinced Mitt not to run. Mitt was going to run. It was going to be a third attempt, the second one being one of the great catastrophes. The first one just didn't happen, so that's okay. But the second was a catastrophe. And what happened is he went to see Jeb, and Jeb had him convinced that he's going to run, he's got the money, he's this, and Mitt chickened out. But I'll tell you the real reason he chickened out. It wasn't Jeb. It was me. Because I said, he's a choke. If you remember, Mitt was all set to run. I know this from people that are close to him. And I think he probably still has a desire, maybe at the convention, to try and get some kind of a thing. Hillary Clinton will destroy him in the election, assuming she's allowed to run, assuming she's not arrested for the email situation. So anyway, when I heard Mitt was going to run, a little before this period of time, I was very tough. I said, he can't run, he can't run. He was going to run, he can't run. Then I started saying, look, we got to keep him out because he's going to lose. He's a choke artist. He's an absolute, and I started hitting him so hard because we cannot take another loss. We can't take another loss. And Mitt is indeed a choke artist. He choked, and he choked like I've never seen anyone choke me. A lot of people don't sue me because they say it's too hard. So one of the things that Mitt brought up, which I think is so serious, he said about trade. We have to keep trade. Nobody knows more about trade than me. I mean, I made so much more money than Mitt. You know, I have a store that's worth more money than Mitt. It's a store. So that's really the thing. So with Mitt, I just wanted to tell you that he came out, it was very nasty. I mean, I thought he was a better person than that. I did help him. I raised money for his campaign. I actually had 2 fundraisers for him. In fact, the first fundraiser was so successful that we had the second one that same day. His wife, who was a lovely woman, by the way, a really lovely woman, she came up. We had a fundraiser in my apartment at Trump Tower, and it was so oversubscribed. I did a great job. They couldn't have cared less about him. In fact, a lot of them said, Donald, he's a stiff. He's not going to win. I said, oh, he'll be fine. He's a stiff. I should have listened to the guy. But we had a fundraiser, and it was so big, and it was raining out. I won't forget this one. I was raining, and really raining. It was a miserable, miserable day. And the people came in, hundreds of people, phase 1. And then we said, there's too many people to put them in one. So we called for another one an hour later, after it ended 1 hour. And because everybody's shoes were so wet, I ruined my carpet. That's why I ruined. This carpet was wiped out. And nobody thanked me for the carpet. Hey, maybe I can send Mitt a bill for carpet ruined, right? But I always, you know, when you help somebody, he asked me to make robocalls. I made 6 robocalls for him. Every single place I made the robocall, he won. North Carolina, there were 6 different places. So you help somebody, and then he turns. Now, I will say this. He probably had a right to turn, because nobody could have been nastier than me in getting him not to run by saying he's a joke artist. And I will say the reason I did that, he was going to run. I love our country too much. If he would have run, and even if he would have won, it would have been bad. He doesn't have what it takes to be president. That I can tell you. He doesn't have what it takes to be president.